Many years ago, the internet connected the world of information, and NAD Grid today is working to connect the world of energy. And let me explain with a few numbers from the United States, which is where NAD Grid is based, to explain what we mean by that. So the electric grid as we know it is being distributed and decentralized exponentially as we know it. And the way that's happening is through this thing called DER, which stands for Distributed Energy Resources. And there are many of 4 forms: wind, solar, natural gas, and batteries. And as you can see, in the last 10 years, solar alone grew over 100 times. And these DERs together have a high potential to make the grid more reliable, more efficient, and reducing carbon emission because of the renewable energy elements in it. But currently, these DERs are being more disruptive than constructive to the grid. The reason being, this is really enabling a decentralized market, but it's running on top of a centralized infrastructure. So these DERs, to be effective, they need to deliver their excess energy in its vicinity, because delivering the energy long distance will cause loss in transmission. So, and the trend of achieving energy independence is growing ever stronger. So how do we actually solve this problem and bring harmony back to the grid? So the DERs delivering energy to its vicinity is really enforcing the transactive energy, which is peer-to-peer in nature. And so how do we achieve transactive energy? And so to achieve transactive energy, there are basically 2 issues that we have to solve. One is the logistic issue, the other one being the physical problem. So let's start with the physical issue first. How do you actually deliver energy point to point? So energy, if you imagine a grid as a pool of water, the consumer is actually taking water out of the pool, and the consumer actually chooses by paying which supplier or suppliers to resupply the energy that he took from the grid. So by the virtue of paying a supplier, the consumer is keeping that supplier in business. So that's the physical side of the issue. And another issue with peer-to-peer transactions is the complication in the financial system. How do we solve that problem? So we have 2 choices. One is a centralized solution, which is funding a third company that needs to gain the trust of every peer. And also, it's very slow because it only clears maybe once a month, and it's very error-prone, and also very slow. So another solution is to have a decentralized solution, which is running on a consortium blockchain. This solution is cheaper, more secure, it's tamper-proof, and it's accounting error-free because by design. So another element that we can actually enable on top of this decentralized platform is something we call selective sourcing. And we as NAD Grid want to claim that not all energy are created equal. Some energy are created from solar, some from wind, some from hydro, and some from nuclear and coal. So all of these different methods of generation affect the environment differently based on their carbon emissions. And we want to actually measure and differentiate based on the carbon emission of each generation method and by different suppliers. So an example of a generation emission is the amount of grams of greenhouse gas emitted per kilowatt hour generated. And when we differentiate these on a more granular scale, what we enable is a more gradual way to reduce carbon effects to the environment. And another benefit and use of blockchain in this area is that a concept called energy laundering. So it might sound dramatic today, but it might be a real problem tomorrow. So imagine you have a battery, and the battery originally sources the energy from coal, and then later the battery sells the energy back out onto the grid as solar at a more expensive. So how do you prevent something like that from happening? So you use blockchain to track exactly where each drop of energy actually came from. And then another grid value that we can add actually inspired from investments. So by mixing and aggregating, we can actually let the consumer choose at which level of cleanliness he or she desires the energy to be. And then lastly, with an actual free market that enables transactive energy, what we can achieve is a dynamic energy price, electricity price. And this is an existing current model, which is hundreds of millions of dollars saving. So this concept is basically turning an automated process on when the price is cheap, and then turning those automated processes off when it's expensive. This not only saves cost, but it's also good for the grid, because price really relates to the demand. And when the demand is too volatile, it's harmful to the grid. So by reallocating this demand to the less energy usage times, we actually smooth out the demand on the grid, which is very beneficial to the grid as a whole. It reduces maintenance costs as well. So that's my last slide, and we are in the process of piloting our prototype with an actual utility. So one differentiation of us is that we actually handle the delivery of your energy from point to point, besides letting you trade. So we are wrapping up our private sale, and we're planning to list our token, which is called Eden, on the exchange. So for more information, please go to our website, which is just nadgrid.com, and come and write us a check while you still can. Thank you.